Welcome to the Burning Pallets Podcast, sponsored by Texsource. Here's your host, Ryan Boland.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan here with the Burning Pallets Podcast, along with Mike Hoey and PJ with Easiway, a longtime friend of Texsource. He's been with us for a really long time. Shout out to M&R. Thank you guys for having us here at the Long Beach show. It's day 3. It's a calm day. The past 2 days have been nuts for everybody. Yes. Selling a bunch of stuff. Unlike Burning Pallets, we've been sitting here talking to random people every day. So it's a little bit of different change for us versus normal trade shows that we attend. We're always on the floor trying to sell stuff. Now we're just sitting here talking the whole time. So it's been different, interesting. But anyways, welcome, PJ. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
PJ's what I want to call it. He's been on both sides of the fence. You got the ink side and the chemical side. Not much, obviously, screen printer. You know the screen printing industry. I don't know if you started in screen printing or if you were just kind of more in the sales straight off.
I was more in the technical side when I started with Rutland back in 1993. Developing ink, color matching, tech support for sales. Yeah.
So you got the Rutland, and then I know you worked with Matt Suey before, or in the past, so you got Matt Suey training, you got the Rutland training. Just like everybody in the industry is bouncing around to the different manufacturers, so you kind of know about a lot.
The pinball wizard.
Yeah, there you go. I was waiting for you to jump in and help me on that one. Save me a little bit.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades.
But with Easiway, what's some of the new stuff that you guys are working with? And I don't know how many times you can reformulate a chemical because you can, but there's only so much you can do. I mean, you're reclaiming a screen and you're degreasing a screen.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our core products, which have always, been around for a long time. 842, Supra, 701. I mean, those are like the top 3 core products that we've been making for, 30, 40 years. And they just work, so you don't really have to do any reformulating. We do have a new product that we did come out with this past year. It's called 991, which is it's kind of like 701, but it's 701 light, I guess is how you would refer to it.
Stick to the 701.
Yeah. And that's something that can kind of be more price competitive when you get guys that are more about price. But
if the 701, it's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just works.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's a phenomenal product. It's non-caustic, pH neutral. And it cleans, and it doesn't attack your mesh, doesn't attack the glue. And at the end of the day, it does really make more sense for how little you have to use to do the job you're doing, price or not. But some people just aren't convinced, when they see the price that's more than what they want to pay, and they just want to go cheap, which we.
Just the same scenario as tape. I know
masking tape, box tape.
Yeah,
I know you got you're a business owner. You got a pinch pin. You got to watch what you spend. It all comes down to cost. But if it's a superior product and it's going to efficiency, I mean, I know Mike always has the same story about tape.
Yeah,
just use the right PMI tape.
Yeah, I had to prove because they wanted the guys at the top wanted to find something cheaper. That was their mantra. And kind of behind my back, they got us buying some stuff that I had to prove to them this is not cheaper. You're using 2 strips of it now, and you're leaving gunk behind that's going to end up in my chemistry. And who wants a big tape goop blob all up in your your chemistry?
Yeah, and watching a guy trying to peel box tape off of a screen for 10 minutes is just
picking at it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is trying to show them how much labor is going into doing that. If they just bought the right tape, that's a little bit more expensive, but you can grab one corner and pull it and it comes off all the way around.
Same concept with the 701. I mean, get a great product that works.
Yeah.
And stick with it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I think people, when they get in this business, that they have to decide where am I going to be at? I keep referring to, like, when I see the ads where you get 100 shirts for $3.99.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, and you see them all over. It's a gotcha, it's a ketchup, and then when you get in there, they're like, oh, that's for just a one color print, dark on light with the cheapest shirt, made. And there's customers like that too that are going for the cheapest. So you have to decide, what am I going to do in this business and who am I going to be? Am I going to be doing high-end, great work, great customers, or am I going to service the grinders? If you're going to service the grinders that grind you on price, I figured this out years ago, and even outside of screen printing, some people will just grind you, and they're never going to be happy. They want the cheapest of the cheap. And I just decided, like, that's not the quality of customer I was going to bring to the table. I want people that will pay a premium price for a premium product.
Absolutely.
And they expect the quality, but the grinders expect high quality too. That's the irony, right? So if you find something that works for you, stick with it. And that's probably why there's some emulsions that are probably better. But there's some old school guys who've been using the same emulsions for like 20 years, right? Because they're like, don't change that on me. And they're like, we want to kill it from the line. But people, when they grab on something, they're not going to change.
So your transition, so you let off Rutland, then you're Matsui, which brought you to West Coast. So how was that, living in West Coast for, I don't know how long you were here?
I lived out here for 4 years. I worked out here for 10 years for Rutland, and that was all during my sales time. I started in sales around 2001 for Rutland, and originally covered the Southeast, and then transitioned to the West Coast, worked out here, like I said, for 10 years, lived here for 4 of it. Knew I always wanted to get back home, Southern boy, like living in the South, as you guys know. And so there wasn't a path to get back with Rutland at the time, and I found a path with Matsui. It brought me back. I sold water base with Matsui for a year, and didn't feel that it was quite the right fit. Loved the product. They have a phenomenal product, and I enjoyed selling it and doing what I did with them, but didn't feel like that's where I was going to finish my career. So the next step was Easiway, and I've now got 9 years under my belt working.
It's been 9 already?
Yeah, 9 years.
How was it transition from the ink side to the chemical side? Probably not much of a difficulty, but there is a difference.
Yeah, I mean, ink to me was way more technical, and obviously there's way more SKUs. I mean, like I said, we roughly sell mainly about 5 SKUs at Easiway, and it's pretty simple. There's no viscosity issues, there's no color issues. The chemical just works and does what it does. Ink was obviously a lot different. As ink guys out there will tell you, there's a lot more to it. And, it took me a while to switch gears because, doing ink for 21 years and then going to chemicals, it was even hard when I first started going into shops and not trying to help with ink issues that I could, physically see in front of me, and just staying focused on the chemical side. But now it's,
now
10 years removed.
Now you're just selling water.
That's pretty much it, and solvents. Yeah.
I think
we got some clowns out here.
Oh yeah, they've been heckling.
We've been heckled today.
When we have the vendors over, there's certain vendors that the NASDAR guys and some other guys know. They're all trying to make faces.
The NASDAR guys are heckling us.
Nah, I would too. I would be bored if I was over there.
Yeah. There's no one there
because there's no one here at the show.
That's the only negative to doing a podcast at a trade show is everybody and they're going to walk by and try to get you to stump off.
It's been a constant. Everyone knows everyone around here.
I think Keith, he had like 3 hecklers from International Coatings, but I recently done a TikTok that was me reclaiming screens, and I was showing them that one in, one out, method.
I saw that several times.
That let's help me. Let's make that go viral.
I shared it. I already shared it. Yeah.
It's where I'm reclaiming like 3 or 4 screens, but I'm showing like you only do one in and one out, so that you don't create the brick in the bottom. But I had to do it like quick on the TikTok, so it was fast motion and then a voiceover, right? But some of the stuff that I learned from PJ when I got so far away from the process and I was all up in the front end of the house that he had to take me back and kind of school me on like, the things my employees were doing. But I have to be honest with you, like I couldn't enforce it because I wasn't back there enough. The guy in the screen room or the personnel back there, they're back in their own little world, and they're always trying to make things really easy on themselves. So they'll let those bitches soak until you don't even have to spray water on them.
Yeah,
and then you've ruined the punch. You've diluted your stuff down. Right?
just spike it.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Don't do that.
No, I mean, you have to spike it sometimes if it starts getting weak, but you don't want the brick in the bottom with the emulsion falling off. And so when I'm trying to convince people, even a small shop, to get like a dip tank solution, instead of one at a time, it's a time thing.
Yeah.
And so I think anybody could benefit if you just have it right there at the ready at all times to just drop a screen in there and do the 1-for-1 method. Now,
and I mean that's what I preach to people when I'm out there. The big dip tanks, I'm not a huge fan of them. Takes obviously way more chemicals to get the ratio to where you need it for the time that you're trying to soak the screens. I'm all about the 1 in, 1 out method because one person can only reclaim one screen so fast. And if you put one in, after a minute and a half, 2 minutes, you take it out. You put another one in, and while you're reclaiming that screen, the other one's in there. And by the time you get done reclaiming and using your stain remover, it's time to take the next one out, put the next one in. And if you do that and you stick to that 2-minute ritual roughly, I mean, you can do almost 30 screens an hour with a dip tank. So you don't need a gigantic dip tank that you can put 10 screens in at a time. But, it's hard changing people's methodology on that.
It's hard changing them on inks or anything. I mean, once a screen printer gets
locked in,
we all know. You have the right products. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
I've said a lot of things the past couple of days, and
that's why you have that opportunity, especially when we do our classes, to kind of set the tone, and that's a very important stage in people's process, and you can get them, you can put them with what is going to work for them right away. But once they're locked in, then good luck. But and even the situation I have with PJ, I knew him already, so he got in the door, and we could talk like, hey man, how's it going? Because we've all been around forever. But it was.
This is at your shop. This is at the shop you were at.
Yeah. But it wasn't until he showed me things and put money down on paper, and I already had the pressure from the top. Like, hey, this is this can save money. Whether the guys were going to end up doing it or not, that's neither here nor there. But when you can teach an old guy, here's how it is, then, I'm like, yeah, let's go with that. And that's how he stole the business from the rival. And, somebody's going to be all tore up about it. It happens, right?
Something that you were talking about too, we can go in and train people as best we can on how to use a dip tank properly, because I've been into a lot of shops over the years, and you talk about a dip tank and you might get a hammer thrown at you. They're like, yeah, I got one up in the rafters and it sucks, it's horrible. And I'm like, well, why did it not work? And I always know the answer, but I ask them anyway, and they're like, it gets all the sludge in it, it gets so dirty, and it's just a mess. And I'm like, well, I said, more than likely, you probably weren't trained properly how to use it. And when I go through and explain to them that the ratio of chemistry to water, equates to how much time you dip the screen just to soften the emulsion and ink, so that way when you pull it out, 95+% of what's on the screen is still on there, not in the tank. You don't create that sludge. And that's the way dip tanks were meant to be used. And I mean, we know this because at Easiway, we're the ones that came out with dip tanks and invented them and put them in the marketplace first before anybody, 45 years ago. And so that's the other thing, and I've had people actually pull them off the rafters, and well, now what you're telling me makes sense. So let's try it again. And I'm like, sure, we can try it again. And so those people are now using dip tanks. But also to go into what you're saying, you can go in there and train somebody, and then when you walk out and leave, if they don't stick to what you just showed them, that's what's kind of leading our industry into auto reclamation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys want to get into that, but by way of not, necessarily thinking I was going to go down that road. I've kind of had to go down that road because
everybody else is.
The robots are taking over. But on the dip tank thing, I do want to. I'm going to put a disclaimer in here. Is the higher the mesh, the quicker you better be spraying that shit out, because like if I got a 110 mesh in there, then I've got plenty of time to to spray, knock off the other, get the 701 on there, scrub it. So it actually makes you work fast, man. And then if I'm reclaiming 230s, then I just can't make it. Like you can see in my video, emulsion's falling off there, and I was waiting. Somebody called me out when I did it before. It's like, oh, it was gone, and I wanted to say like, yeah, I wasn't fast enough. But it's tough because the emulsion's so thin that trying to do the 1 minute method, I needed like some little auto thing that went and then let it drip back in there. I'm like,
Well, and something that, bringing that up too, it's something that a lot of the newbies in the industry will do too, is when we sell them dip tanks, like when you guys do your seminars and we sell them a dip tank package, and they take to heart the way we train them. So when they get there, the one thing they typically forget, or a lot of them do forget, is they'll pull the screen out so everything's not falling off, but then they'll forget that they got a time limit before they have to reclaim it, because if that chemical in the dip tank dries on the screen, the mesh will turn into, it'll just lock into the mesh. And,
we get those calls. We get those calls, and I said, what happened? And they're like, well, and a lot of times it'll be a severely underexposed screen, which if you don't go to like reclaim that like right then and there, and you let a severely underexposed screen, it kind of doesn't make sense. I don't know the science behind it. But yeah, you're screwed. Once you bring it to water and it's all mushy and soapy, you got to reclaim that now, or you've just made a permanent piece of art that nobody wants to see.
Yeah. And there's other things too that are important. Obviously, that's one. I know at one of the seminars I did at Norcross with you guys, a girl brought a screen in from her shop that had that locked in, and I always tell people, because I've even seen it on message boards on Facebook and stuff, that people have done that, and they're like, a lot of people are like, yeah, it's done, just get it remeshed,
toasted.
Yeah, and you can actually reclaim it. I take 2 meshes, mesh to mesh, put them on a table and saturate it with 701. If you let it set for about 15 minutes to half an hour, it makes the emulsion swell. And when the emulsion swells, it loosens its grip from the mesh, and then you can power wash it right out.
So did we just learn like a little nugget secret there?
That's a little nugget.
So
can I use that, but act like it's just part of my wisdom?
Absolutely. Take it.
I'll say, here's what I tried.
Just edit that
That's
out.
I'm totally going to use
just
that.
Edit that out from the podcast, and then you can take it.
Well, I guess I could be.
So what you're saying is you got 2 screens, both mesh on touching each other.
Yep. Mesh on mesh.
And then you're laying on the
table, flat surface.
Soak one side with all 701.
Spray both of them. Put the first screen down, saturate it with 701. Put the next one down, mesh to mesh, saturate it with 701. Let it set.
On the ink side.
You're spraying the most times the mesh is thicker on the back because they're drying it down so they get the stencil. Yeah. So if you spray the back of the first one, get that saturated, and then put the other one mesh to mesh on it.
Okay.
Back to back, mesh to mesh, and then saturate that. It encapsulates the 701 between the 2 screens.
Yeah.
And you can let it set, like I said, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and it will soften that emulsion, make it swell, and it'll pop right off with a power wash.
It sounds like if you just, it sounds like you got another product you could sell in a very small bottle, like emergency mesh unlock, and just make it smell a little different, and repackage that thing, man, and you can be the...
Need a different name, though.
Yeah. We call it like emergency unlock, or, let your marketing people come up with a fancy name.
The goal is obviously to try to train them not to let it sit there and air dry and lock in.
It happens.
It does.
Especially low meshes seem like that's the ones get locked in.
What about the some of the shops out there that are using just that insanely harsh chemical? Like the one person in Georgia, I don't know if you ever went by Osborne. I can't remember the name, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, there are, and and that's something that amazes me too, because in the plastisol screen printing,
It's like acetone or something crazy. What's the name?
it's a caustic haze remover. I mean, that's what most people will use.
I'm talking about like the
When they clean their
industrial,
screens
some
with,
kind of that's
gasoline.
Not, that's not meant for screen printing, but they use something off the wall.
Oh yeah. I mean, you got guys because they'll buy stuff like acetone, like you said.
Oh Lord,
it's super cheap, and I mean, I got guys to this day that'll use acetone bleach. I mean, there's a shop in, I think it's Knoxville, and I've been by that guy's shop, for the last 9 years, and I'm always going in there just to see if it might be under new ownership or something. I'm like, you guys still using acetone and bleach? Yep. All right. Have a good day.
You're just seeing if he's still living because that's going to kill some people. Right?
So what does that? I mean, it destroys the mesh.
Yeah, I mean, it'll dry rot the mesh, and they'll use it to clean flood bars and squeegees, and it'll attack the squeegee material as well.
I got another one that I've seen. People using magic erasers. Those little white sponges.
Yeah.
For like a degrease a dehaze or something, or getting the stains out.
I've seen people use it in combination with 701. So they'll spray 701 for really harsh, nasty stains. They'll spray 701 and use magic eraser. I personally have tried that at a shop one time because it was brought to my attention. I couldn't really see the difference.
No.
Versus using a regular scrub pad, I couldn't see it, but
I think they were just claiming that this I can't get the stain out, and I think that they just used water in that magic eraser. What I saw.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way, because you still have to. They're like, I skipped the last step. I don't have to buy the degreaser. Like, you still have to buy it because you still have to degrease that screen.
Yeah. Plus the haze is stuck in the knuckles, which is not. You just can't touch that. It's got
correct. I mean, the eraser's not going to penetrate that. Chemical does that.
Yeah, chemical gets in between the. I always do this. Do you do this like it gets trapped?
Ronnie does that. You ever seen Ronnie try and do that? He's like,
looks like he's doing like a Chinese finger.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have got that from him.
But yeah, I mean, but what I was saying too, there's also people out there that I've seen that use 415, which is one of our caustic haze removers that we sell predominantly into our graphic printers, just based on the UV inks and stuff that they use, that stain a lot more than plastisol. And for me, you really don't need that in the textile market for plastisol. 701 will typically take the stain out. 701, for the most part, the way people use it is they spray it on, they scrub it, they power wash it right out. 701 will continually work. If you have a really bad stain, you can spray a screen, scrub it on there, and set that screen to the side for 15 minutes, and it'll work better to get the stain out.
And you let the 701 dry.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not going to harm the mesh, and it really has to sit on there for a long time, I think, to attack the glue. But if you're just spraying the stain and not even getting it on the glue, it's not an issue at all. It can sit there and dry.
I don't usually have to wait that long. I just kind of scrub, and then blast out, and I'm like, cool, it works. But how many times do you walk in a shop and you look at screens that are laying around and you can see like 5-6 jobs worth of haze in those screens?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's hilarious, and it seems like because you can still burn a stencil, but literally I've seen it so bad where when you print, you can see a silhouette of where the ink didn't lay down of the other job in there.
Yeah.
You can visually, if you get it at the right angle, you're like, oh, that's that last job. I see like the little heart shape in there. And it drives somebody running a shop like crazy to see their mesh like that. But also it seems like if you expose those trapped ink in the knuckles, then you almost got to a point where you can't get it out. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Break a world record to see how many jobs that you can see?
By that time, the tension's gone. So I mean,
you're throwing your exposure off.
Yeah.
It's so you have to nip that in the bud and discipline yourself every time, even if you don't think like, oh, they didn't leave much of a stain. I just do it anyway as a part of just a regiment and a good practice. You got to get at the Mr. Miyagi level on stuff. But yeah, it's the industry you're in, PJ. Though I mean, it's got to be tough because there's all the products that what it takes to do this. The chemistry, it's just not sexy. You know, I mean, how do you make reclaiming? You know,
for me, it's when I go into a shop and I see they're struggling and they show me their process, which I always have them kind of go through and show me first. And when they show me that and they're not getting what I think they should be getting from doing that reclaim process, when I demo my chemicals and then they see how I do it, especially with a dip tank, and roughly I call it a two-step process because it's 2 chemicals and that's it. When you demo that and show it to them and you see like their eyes do this, that's the sexy part.
Well, I meant like when people are looking at your brand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like maybe a logo redesign or something to make you look like, we're the, BAM, because like I said, it's got to be hard, regardless of what the product can do and all that, it's got to be hard because, the
logo did just change. If you,
did it?
Yeah, we just launched a new website.
Okay.
We didn't get it done in time to put the new branding here.
Well,
but
see, you're one step ahead of me, or I'm semi-psychic, maybe, right?
So if you go to easyway.com, you'll see our whole new website. I mean, it just launched, and sales guys, some of us have looked at it, some of us haven't because we've been here at the show.
Yeah.
But we're going to go through it and kind of make some tweaks and stuff. But yeah, the new logo is out there, so there is new branding for Easyway.
See, gosh, I'm telling you, I'm semi.
We're keeping it sexy.
Yeah, keeping it sexy. We'll use that as tagline, but.
All right. Well, you're not doing a question, are you?
Yeah. No, I have to. I have to, Ryan.
All right, hurry up.
I
got to hear this another one.
I have a question for you.
Let's go.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Thanks for, playing along, Ryan. How does the concept of hazing in screen printing encourage us to address and overcome the challenges and obstacles in our path?
Wow.
That's an easy one.
It's kind of deep.
That was me.
Well, let's see if you're thinking what I'm thinking.
I read it I read it a second time.
Read it a second time?
Yeah, because it has to absorb.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2. How does the concept of hazing in screen printing encourage us to address and overcome the challenges and obstacles in our path?
Hazing. And you're talking like hazing, like when you go to college and you go through hazing.
That's what I was thinking.
About? Or are you
it says
about
hazing in screen printing. Like, the screen is hazy. It's got
Mike is trying to mesh this philosophical question where it's got
nice
hazing.
Play on words.
And,
this. Yeah, nice.
And to confuse everybody. But yeah, my brain went to hazing in college as well.
Yeah, he's getting too deep for me.
All right. We'll try again. Since that threw everybody off. In screen printing, stencils, you should be right there with me.
I got you.
Define the image.
Correct.
Let that soak in. Yeah. Stencils define the image. I'm only reading this once. How can this concept encourage us to be intentional and deliberate in shaping our own destinies?
Foundation.
Yeah, that's a one-word answer you got there?
That's all you got.
I mean, that's what stencil is your foundation to your artwork, to your masterpiece.
Okay, that's what you're rolling with, right?
That's it, one word.
Sounds good.
You have a 50-word question, you get a one-word answer.
Well, yeah, Ryan's he's so over me on this right now.
Foundation.
Putting a lot into those questions.
Anyways, thanks for jumping on the podcast. I know it's day 3 of the show. It gets a little foggy by then, but thanks for talking with us and going over some of the Easiway stuff. And it's simple stuff, but it's stuff that is overlooked sometimes.
Absolutely. No, it is. And it's important to know the
pre-press.
The little stuff. Yeah, it's all pre-press. I mean, that's
important.
Where I'm at now. I'm not on press, I'm pre-press.
Yep.
And it's super important to everything you do.
Absolutely. All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yep.
See ya.